So the state is denied the ability to monitor someone as a terrorist, an Australian of their own country being treated by their own state government as a terrorist for wanting the truth in foundations of law, are being treated like a terrorist, for asking questions relative to why they are treated in a certain way, which is hinted to by the justice here when talking about class, the working class, the pauper, the pleb. There is a distinct definition in a type of law that is being used here, wherein wards of the state are being treated as if they are in state care. This is what you see in the legislation here, when the legislation is worded in a way that a nanny is looking after retarded children. You can see by the actions of the state that it is concerned that its children might be growing up to realize whose house it is, and to define that line of authority might define the truth in all matters. Nothing matters but the sun, the moon, and the truth. And we're finally getting to that truth of the matter, in that a line of authority is a failed link when it comes to the government of the state. There is only one possibility, in that they work for a foreign existing power, and the police have admitted through this document that they act in wartime policing. At 66, the police attempt to describe a risk scenario in which the kingdom that is creating a perceived legitimacy for engaging in violence. So they're trying to tar a brush, but they mention these two terms: warfare policing and or military jurisdiction. They have, in the term warfare policing and the term military jurisdiction, defined themselves exactly. That is what they do on behalf of the United Nations. Warfare policing, like they did when they shot everyone for standing on their own holy ground at the Shrine of Remembrance in Melbourne and attempted to move them on. Warfare policing is what they did in the CBD of Melbourne when they rallied people into certain streets and forced them to go to the Shrine of Remembrance. Warfare policing is what they did at the Victoria markets, which is very, very clear in the way that their battalions moved through those markets. When it comes to New South Wales, Matthew Reason sought it upon himself to use those sorts of tactics against peaceful civilians at their own war memorials, remembering their own dead and attempting to tar that as a terrorism activity for raising the flag of their forefathers in remembrance of that line of authority, which is their lawful right in international law as defended by the Attorney General's Department of Australia. For Matthew Reason to take these actions in the first place has demonstrated that the state of New South Wales, at its core being the Crown Law Office, has some fear that its line of authority may be undone by the sheer discovery and standing up for a line of authority that existed in the people before this one was pushed upon them. For me, the Justice has hinted at a class system. And that's the stark point here, in that the police have an ability to police the people because the people are being treated as wards of state. And the class separation here is that you are paupers, using bank money instead of wealth, like gold and silver, like your Constitution defined at Section 115. It's in that demise of currency that they've come along and nannied you and nannied your economy, and you're taking up of that citizenship. Luke 15:14-15 has allowed this to occur. It's as if you left the foundations of your Commonwealth to board this vessel called Australia that they created in 1973. And then on the flip side, this should make the state of New South Wales, all states should take notice, that the activities of the police, especially in these high-risk terrorism units and these fixated person units, have been outed to have attacked Australians rather than to have defended them. You have demonstrated very clearly that you have a preference to monitor, spy on and attack Australians rather than defend their communities and their neighbourhoods. You have undermined a community. You have infiltrated a community. You have attempted to smear a community with a tarred brush because it doesn't agree with a line of authority that you pretend to stand in. And if it could be seen that you are without jurisdiction, then you are nothing more than a corporate interest in privatisation of the people's assets and lands. And it could then be seen to be corruption. Now, this case is wholly separate from the whole lockdown saga and the bio-warfare that has occurred. And this case demonstrates very clearly and opens a door, especially in the mind of others, in the way that New South Wales Fixated Persons Unit have chosen to act, and how Matthew Reason has chosen to jump the gun on something at which he believed was a threat to the state. And this direction would have come from somewhere higher than Matthew Reason, when Matthew Reason chose to take command of the situation. It can be therefore clearly demonstrated that the state of New South Wales attempted to undermine the very community that it is supposed to protect. So now, when I address the Attorney General of Australia, I also address the Security Council of the United Nations. I also address the Attorney General of New South Wales, who is responsible for all of the actions that have been detailed in this court document. You have attempted to undermine the very people you are supposed to protect as administrators under the rules of usufruct. So notably, we can now point out through this document that the United Kingdom of Australia exists. It has been unquoted and quoted, and then at section 12 defines the United Kingdom of Australia has not been specified in the regulations as a terrorist organisation, giving credence to the fact that it exists as the United Kingdom of Australia, consecrated with raised red ensign, in the very action of trying to undermine the unity of the people in that line of authority. Detective Senior Constable Matthew Reason has done nothing but solidify that on court record as a physical existence that is not a terrorist organisation.